Welcome to the Greenway with Mac, a channel that spotlights active transportation. And in this video, I have sat down with Marin County Bicycle Coalition's Policy and Planning Director, Warren Wells. This is Warren's second time joining me, the first time being our conversation about the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge and the fight to keep the multi-use path open 24 hours a day. I'll link to that video at the conclusion of this one. Today, Warren and I are talking about the Mill Valley-Sausalito path. We are continuing north from Sausalito, just a little bit north of the Sausalito Ferry Terminal, where I left you in this video that showed the route from the Golden Gate Bridge to the ferry. Warren is here to share his experience on the path and discuss the landmarks, threats to the path, and some of the long-term plans associated with it. Hey Warren, welcome to the channel.
Thank you for having me, really happy to be here. So you gave a great intro. This is the Mill Valley-Sausalito path. We just started at Gate 6 Road at Mike's Bikes. We're heading due north toward beautiful Mount Tamalpais. This is one of the more scenic places to ride in the bay. Obviously an incredibly well-used trail. This is a really interesting piece of trail right here I really want to talk about, because actually you can see as we pass the houseboats here, we're at low tide. You can see the marshes out here, and just to the left of us is the 101 freeway. So this is a section between Sausalito and Mill Valley where there are no surface streets besides the 101 freeway and this pathway. So if you are not in a car, this is the only way. There's no other local road. There's just the freeway and the paths to get between those two places. So when this floods, which is happening with increasing frequency during the winter time, king tides, this will be under a foot of water. There is no way to walk or bike between southern Marin, and thus San Francisco, and the rest of Marin County. There is, I would say, an effort moving kind of too slowly to protect this part of pathway, which is kind of being led by Caltrans, the State Department of Transportation. You know, they're focused on protecting the highway. You see Route 1 is just over to our left here. That also floods, obviously, and we at the Bicycle Coalition made a big push a couple years ago to say, hey, if you're going to be protecting the freeway and Route 1, you can't leave the bike path to drown. And so we did get a commitment from them to say, we're going to do them at the same time. When it will actually happen is all still very up in the air. There have been kind of some slowdowns in sea level rise adaptation funding at the federal level, unfortunately, which is having impacts across the country. So that project is a bit on hold, but it's one that we are continuing to push on because, like I said, this is just a really critical part of pathway.
I remember that was a month or two ago when they had those king tides. I saw videos of people literally riding paddleboards and kayaks on top of the path. It was a foot or two of water, wasn't it?
Yeah, during those king tides, this can get inundated by 1.5 feet at least. And that's today, much less looking 40, 50 years in the future. I've seen some of the predictions from 2060 or something like that. The sea level rise predictions would have that this path is underwater at least once a day, every day, at high tide. So we're coming up on another section. There's several different projects that are happening over the course of this path. So that's the good thing. We are working on it. It's all happening too slowly, but this section that we're on right now is on a portion of path. The project is being run by Marin County Parks. And actually what's going to happen is this section is actually going to be abandoned and returned to marsh, which is actually going to help with the health of the marsh. So this old rail right-of-way we're riding on is being abandoned, and the pathway is actually going to kind of route around the other two sides of the triangle through Tam Junction, which we just passed. Maybe people going to Hookfish or the pizza place there, and then along Almonte Boulevard, which is just, you can't quite see it up to our left. We're on like the hypotenuse. It'll describe the other two sides of a right triangle. It'll be a little bit longer, but it'll be a really good project for a lot of reasons. It'll improve access between Tam Valley and the pathway, and also will preserve access between Southern Marin and Mill Valley. So that project is moving along. It's in design. Still have a lot of funding needs to meet, but it's carrying along, along well.
That's cool. I actually didn't know anything about that project. And so I would imagine part of it will be to raise the path to protect against sea level rise?
Yeah, so again, one of the alternatives they looked at was like, do we want to raise the path where it is now? And that was decided against for kind of like marsh health reasons that are not my expertise, but the path will go on an elevated causeway again, kind of jogging west toward Tam Junction and then along Almonte at a height of, I think, 16 feet off the existing marsh, so well out of flood danger. And then it'll rejoin, we kind of just actually where the video paused back there for a moment, that's where the pathway will rejoin and it'll continue following on the alignment that we're on right now. There's actually another project that is happening on the section that we're on right now, where the sewage agency of Southern Marin, SASM, is going to be raising the path and putting what's called a horizontal levee underneath it, where they're going to be filtering out the nitrites. I don't know, this is not my specialty. Improving the health, improving the water that they are putting out into the bay. And so that involves creating this levee where the wastewater filters through living plants and then goes out to the bay. It also has this multi-benefit project, so it'll also raise the height of the pathway there.
Excellent. And while this path is nice because it seems to be more direct, and it is unique to be out here in the marsh, it seems like there would be a lot of value if the path served the community to our left. Businesses and residents over there would get the benefits that come with proximity to the trail.
Exactly, yeah. It actually will improve the school commute for a ton of people in unincorporated Tam Valley.
I'll get back to the interview with Warren in just a second, but if you're enjoying this video, then give it a like and subscribe so that you are the first to see the latest videos about biking in the San Francisco Bay Area. I remember this area as I was passing it. There is an assortment of athletic fields off to the right. And then on the left here, it looked like a music festival was going on. It seems like a very active area. What can you tell me about either of those?
Yeah, I mean, we passed Bayfront Park just on the right a second ago, which is incredibly busy. Soccer, volleyball fields, baseball. It's very, very, very busy. I guess this is probably the Mill Valley Music Festival here on the left. I think this is Marin's busiest park. Like, this pathway sees many thousands, I think up to 10,000 people riding a day. I saw a count from Mother's Day a few years ago. So it's very, very, very busy, very well used, incredibly treasured.
In this next section, it seems like we start to get into a neighborhood. I saw a few different schools along the route. Do you know how well loved this trail is for students and parents on school days?
So we just passed Mill Valley Middle School just before we saw those tents. The tents were the community center. We just crossed East Blythedale Avenue and we'll come up on Edna McGuire Elementary School on the right. This pathway is just critically important for people biking to school or biking their kids to school. I mean, if you go to actually I took some photos the other day. If you go to the Mill Valley Middle School bike parking rack, there's literally hundreds of bikes in the back of the schoolyard. Like, Mill Valley has probably one of the best bike commute rates of any school nationwide. Marin is actually the home of the Safe Routes to School program. It started in Marin and then became a national program. And so we have some of the best performing schools in terms of bike and walk commute rate to school.
I love to hear it. So we are on this great path. It's relatively flat. There aren't a lot of crossings. I'm really enjoying it. Why can't we continue on it to get to Larkspur and the other towns to the north?
Yeah, so we're on the old rail right-of-way now, and the train, which ran from 1880s until 1970 something, actually used to go through a tunnel through this ridge up ahead of us. That tunnel was closed when the train stopped running, and Marin's closed today. So we at the Bicycle Coalition, one of the biggest projects that we would like to see move forward is to reopen and rehabilitate that tunnel for bicycle and pedestrian use. Happily, we have a great example of that right here in Marin, just a couple of miles north of us, right near the Larkspur Smart Station, is another former railway tunnel that was closed for 40 years and was reopened to bike ped use in 2010. So that was called the Calpark Hill Tunnel. This is the Alto Tunnel, and that's one of our biggest advocacy projects here at the Bike Coalition.
I have noticed signs on the Smart Trail that mention the Great Redwood Trail. Can you tell me about that?
Sure, the Great Redwood Trail is kind of the brainchild of Marin County's state senator, Mike McGuire, and it is a planned 320-mile multi-use path from the San Francisco Bay all the way up to Arcata and the Humboldt Bay. It would follow the same rail right-of-way, the Northwestern Pacific Railroad, as far as it went. It used to go hundreds of miles into the northern counties, and that project is moving along. It is a multi-decade project, without doubt. All across several counties, there are some existing bits of pathway, but there are hundreds of miles where it needs to be built. It won't all be a paved multi-use path like we just saw. Some of it may be a hiking trail, some of it may be crushed gravel, but the project is moving along. There is a Great Redwood Trail agency. They actually just finalized their master plan this morning, and they have secured, I think, $40 million in construction funding from the state to start working on those highest priority projects. And thanks to some lobbying from us, the Bike Coalition, the initial plan for the Great Redwood Trail had it stopping at Larkspur, and we pushed the senator, and he agreed with us, to extend the designation of the trail all the way down to the Golden Gate Bridge. So now the Great Redwood Trail starts at the Golden Gate Bridge, ends at Humboldt Bay and Arcata. And so all of these segments that we just saw today are actually now, in fact, part of the Great Redwood Trail. And we view the Alto Tunnel, like you were talking about just a moment ago, as a really important part of that.
Oh, nice. I had no idea they designated the trail all the way to the Golden Gate Bridge, but that is great news. This is the end of the trail at the southern portal of the Alto Tunnel, but you can join Warren and I as we continue our conversation as we go over that alternative route. See you on the next Greenway.